Hello there everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm still sort of playing with the whole I don't know where to film in my new house idea. So today I thought that I would try filming in front of my computer. I don't know if you guys are gonna judge me for all the manga I have behind me, but you know, I am who I am and I'm not gonna apologize for that. And you know what? Okay, while we're on the subject of not judging, all right, I know my eyebrows look bad. Okay, I have eyes too. I can see it, but we don't need to talk about it. Okay, you don't need to go into the comments and say, "Oh, Kenya, your eyebrows, they aren't twins, they aren't sisters, they aren't even like third cousins. What have you done?" I get it. Okay, I can see it. You know, just be a little lenient with me here. Okay, I've been in quarantine for so long. I forgot how to do makeup. Welcome to the very first video of my Bringing Home a New Ferret, the Ultimate Guide series. I'm going to be doing quite a few videos sort of similar to this one where I cover a lot of the basics of bringing home a new ferret and introducing them to an already existing group of ferrets. We're going to go through everything from initially purchasing your ferret to quarantine to proper introductions to your new group. So if this is something that you think you're going to be interested in or something that you would like to learn about, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button because I will have more videos up in the weeks to come. So what are we talking about today? You probably read the title, so you probably know what we're talking about, actually. Today we're going to be talking about how to safely purchase a ferret from a self-advertising website like Kijiji, Craigslist, or Gumtree. I think there are a lot of stigmas and sort of fears when it comes to adopting ferrets or any pet really from these sort of websites, and I really just want to address these in this video. As many of you know, I adopted my ferret Nova off of Kijiji about 3 years ago, and I am currently in the process of adopting 2 more ferrets, and they are also both coming off of Kijiji. So I have sort of been around the block when it comes to Kijiji animals, and I have several experiences with them. Today we're going to be covering why I think that it's important to be adopting animals off of these websites, some common concerns that people have that I have heard online, the proper way to go about adopting one of these animals, and then I'll just be giving a little bit of advice and talking about some of my personal experiences. There will be timestamps down in my description, but I do recommend watching this video all the way through at least once because I think I'm going to bring up some pretty important information throughout. So if you are returning to this video and you want to just like skip to a certain part, by all means, go for it. Down below, right there for you. Before we get into the video, I do just want to say a quick disclaimer about everything here. By me promoting the purchase of ferrets from a self-advertising website, I am in no way saying not to go to a rescue or a shelter. The reason I wanted to make this video in particular was to provide another option for people who want to adopt ferrets, so I can therefore further discourage the purchase of ferrets from pet stores. Rescues and shelters do absolutely wonderful work, and they deserve as much support from their community as they can get. But I still do think that self-advertising websites are a decent option for finding animals to adopt. Animals are posted on these websites for lots of different reasons. Maybe their previous owner doesn't have access to a shelter, or the shelters around them are at max capacity. Or maybe they just want monetary compensation for what they've already spent on the animal. Keep in mind, rehoming because people can't afford to take care of their pet anymore is a pretty common reason to rehome. Or maybe they just want to know exactly who their pet is going to. Really, all I'm trying to do with this video is to eliminate a little bit of the fear that people have from purchasing pets from these websites, because I just want more ferrets in need to get homes. So I hope that that comes through and you guys aren't thinking that I am turning people away from rescues. Please still seek out rescues. The first thing we're going to be talking about today is why I think it's important to be adopting animals off of these websites. A lot of these reasons are similar to the reasons that I think it is good to adopt through a rescue or a shelter. The biggest one being that when you are adopting an animal off of Kijiji, Craigslist, or any of these other websites, you are not supporting mill breeding. I don't want to get too much into the nitty-gritty of why pet store ferrets are bad, because that's not what this video is about, but if you haven't watched Bryn, aka Pazu and Friends, video on ferret mills, I really recommend giving it a watch. It is an amazing video. Bryn put so much work into it, and I will have it linked below, so please give that a watch if you are considering buying a pet store ferret. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Another good reason is that you are giving a ferret in need a home. A lot of ferrets on these websites are being rehomed because the owners can't afford to take care of them, the owners are moving, perhaps they were an impulse purchase and the owner realized later that they didn't want this pet anymore. So by adopting this animal, you are helping not only the person who doesn't want the pet anymore, but you're helping helping this animal that really needs a home and someone who's gonna take care of it properly. Another good reason is that ferrets off of these websites are often a lot cheaper than a ferret from a pet store would be. I don't know where you live, but where I live, ferrets in pet stores can go anywhere from 200 to 300 Canadian dollars, whereas ferrets on Kijiji I have seen as low as $50. And along with that, a lot of these ferrets do actually come with supplies already, so they might come with a cage, toys, litter, food, everything that you're going to initially need when you buy the ferret. Of course, it's important to remember that these supplies might not actually be ferret safe or ferret appropriate. A lot of the ferrets that I see are being rehomed in cages that are a lot smaller than they should be, or just with inappropriate supplies. So just make sure you've done your research on whatever supplies the ferret is coming with. Another good reason is that these ferrets are very likely already trained. Most ferrets that I've seen being rehomed are already litter trained and very likely already bite trained, so you're not going to have to go through that yourself. Along the same sort of lines of the ferrets already being trained is that the ferrets that are being rehomed often aren't babies. Now, I know a lot of first-time ferret owners will see baby ferrets and they want a baby ferret. It is true, baby ferrets are super cute, but the problem with baby ferrets is that they have a lot of energy, and in my opinion, baby ferrets are not worth it. Luna and Nova I adopted when they were both already almost middle-aged, and the two new girls I'm getting are, though a little bit younger, still not kits. I think a lot of first-time ferret owners really get in over their heads when they try and adopt a kit and they don't realize how much of a time commitment and responsibility a baby ferret is going to be. So if you're a first-time ferret owner, I really recommend not getting a baby ferret. And the last reason I think that these websites can be a good place to get an animal is that there are quite a lot of genuine people out there just really trying to do what's best for these animals. When I adopted Nova, she was from a couple that legitimately just could not afford to take care of her anymore, and I really respect them for recognizing that and being willing to part with their pet. They wanted to find her a good home, and they made sure that I was going to be putting her in a safe place where she could live the rest of her life happily, and I really respect them for that. In the same way, the two new girls I'm getting are being rehomed because their owners are moving to a new place that doesn't allow pets, and so again, they have made the decision that instead of keeping these animals where their landlord could come in and say, hey, you have to get rid of these pets, they're gonna rehome them and try and find a good place for them. So just because these are people who are posting their own ad, it doesn't mean that they're out there trying to just steal money from you and be greedy. There are some legitimately good people out there, and you're gonna be helping them and you're gonna be helping the animal by taking them in. Now that we've got that part over with, I do want to talk about a couple of the concerns that I've heard a lot of people expressing online when I talk about buying a ferret off of a self-advertising website. The biggest reason I ever hear people say is that there are scams on these websites. Honestly, in my opinion, I think that that is a really bad excuse. I'm not going to deny the fact that there are scams out there. There are a lot of people out there who are trying to steal money from you. But if you're smart about the way you're going about it, you're not going to get scammed. The number one thing to make sure you're doing is do not give anyone your money until you have seen the animal and you are about to get it. I didn't pay for Nova until I had her in a kennel about to go into my car because I knew for sure at that point that this ferret was mine. I haven't paid for the new ferrets that I'm getting, and I'm not going to pay for them until the day I'm going to pick them up. So if you contacted someone about getting an animal off of one of these websites and they're saying, okay, you have to e-transfer me, you have to give me the money right now or you're not going to get it, honestly, that's probably a scam. Do not go for it. The second concern I hear a lot of people talk about is the chance of adopting an unhealthy ferret. I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it because it is possible that you're going to adopt a ferret that isn't healthy or possibly already has an existing health condition. But in my opinion, that shouldn't stop you from adopting one of these animals. These ferrets still need homes, and if you're someone who is educated on ferret care, I don't think that taking in a sick ferret is going to stop you at all. Most ferrets in their lifetime do have health concerns, which is exactly why so many ferret owners online advocate for having money saved in the bank just in case medical emergencies. So why not spend that money that you should have in the bank already right at the beginning when you get your ferret? It just, to me, it seems like the people who say that are the kind of people who don't have the money saved up that they should have saved up, so they really shouldn't be adopting a ferret anyway. And that's just completely my opinion on it. You may have a different opinion. I just really feel for the ferrets out there that are sick and they're in possibly neglectful homes and no one's gonna adopt them just because of the chance that they might have some sort of lifetime illness. It just affects me really personally because Nova was diagnosed pretty early in her life with insulinoma, and I think one of the main causes is that because because her previous owners didn't have as much money as they should have to take care of her, they were feeding her pretty low quality kibble. If you've seen my insulinoma video, you understand the link between poor diet and insulinoma. So to me, it just makes me think, what if I hadn't been around to adopt her and someone else had not wanted her just because she might have been sick? That thought just absolutely destroys me because she is like the best ferret that I've ever met and I love her so much. So if I talk about this anymore, I'm probably gonna get emotional. So we're gonna stop and we're gonna move on. Now on to the exciting part of the video that I was more excited to get to because we're not talking about sad things anymore. What happens once you have found a ferret on one of these websites and you want to adopt it? Good question. So I really recommend just reaching out to the owner as soon as you can. And I think that the initial message you send should be relatively brief. I would just say, hey, my name is X. I'm interested in adopting the ferret you have posted. Maybe talk about a little bit of your experience if you have had ferrets before. And even if you haven't, just say, oh, I've been researching for X amount of time and I'm really wanting to bring a ferret into my life. What's really important with this initial message is that you let them know that you have follow-up questions and you're willing to answer any questions that they have for you. I really recommend not trying to overwhelm them with this initial message. You just really want to throw your hat in the ring there and let them know that you're interested. So hopefully once they get back to you, they are very willing to answer any questions that you have. If they aren't willing to answer questions, that's a bit of a red flag for me. So I would say maybe take a step back and think about this situation because there is information about these ferrets that you need to know before you are adopting them. Now, some people include piles of information in the post that they have. They will tell you absolutely everything about these ferrets, but some people make their ads a little bit shorter. So if any of the following information isn't in the initial ad, make sure that you ask it them at this point. So the first thing is just any basic information about the ferrets. You're gonna wanna know their age, possibly their names, a little bit about the ferrets, especially if you have ferrets at home, knowing a little bit about their personality is a really, really good idea. And then you should probably find out if they are spayed or neutered. The next big one that I would ask is what food these ferrets are currently being eaten. What? No. The next thing I would ask is what food they are currently eating. Unfortunately, in my experience, most of the ferrets that you see being rehomed are on a bad brand of kibble, such as Marshall kibble, and anyone who is on my channel often knows how I feel about Marshall's kibble. It's bad. Don't feed your ferrets Marshall's kibble. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But you're still gonna wanna know what they are eating because you're very likely gonna have to switch them to something else. Switch them to raw. Raw food is better for them. Give them the raw diet. The next thing you should ask them is about cages and supplies, anything that the ferrets come with. This is something that most posts will say what the ferrets are coming with because they want to be able to sell it to you and be like, hey, buy my ferret, it comes with a cage, it's so much easier. Like I said earlier, a lot of these ferrets are going to be coming with inadequate cages, inadequate supplies, and you're probably going to have to end up replacing them, but it's still a good idea for you to know. And the last thing that you should be aware of is this ferret's medical history. So this means asking the owners the last time they were at the vet, if they have any papers or documents to go along with the ferrets, and if they have any known pre-existing health conditions. As I mentioned before, personally, I don't think that these things should affect your decision to adopt a ferret. So in my opinion, you should tell that to the person while you're asking this question. If someone is super desperate to get rid of a ferret, they might tell you that it's been to the vet when it really hasn't. So the best way to avoid this is just to be transparent and honest. If a person knows that whether or not their ferret is up to date in their shots isn't gonna affect your decision to get them, they're probably gonna tell you the truth instead of lying. Now I just want to slip into a segment where I give a little bit of advice to anyone who is looking for ferrets on these websites. This is just stuff that I've experienced personally and I think it's really important to take note of. One big thing that you need to be aware of is backyard breeders. If someone tells you that these ferrets they're selling, they have personally bred, you need to make sure you're asking the right questions to make sure that they are a good breeder and the ferrets that they're breeding are in good conditions. I don't want to get too much into that for this video because I think that warrants its own entirely different video. So if you are curious about questions you can ask a ferret breeder to know if they're reputable or not, I will have links below as a resource for that. But a bad breeder can be just as bad as a ferret mill, which we don't want to support. That's why we're here buying ferrets off of Kijiji, Craigslist, or Gumtree. So please make sure that you are supporting only good breeders. My next piece of advice is something that I think a lot of people who are looking for ferrets on these websites need to hear, and that's just that you really, really need to have patience. I know it can be so frustrating when you are ready to open up your home to a new pet and you really, really just want to adopt one, but you can't find one posted. I totally understand. I've been looking for new ferrets to adopt since January, and it's only now in May that I have found 2 ferrets that I'm ready to commit to. So it really, really does take time sometimes. I know that this is harsh, but I think it needs to be said. Pet ownership requires a lot of patience. And if you're not willing to be patient for the very first step of owning a pet, maybe pet ownership isn't for you. Lack of patience is what creates impulse buyers and puts animals in the situation that lead to them being rehomed on these websites. So please just make sure that you can take a step back sometimes and just assess yourself, be a little patient, and just wait, because the wait is so worth it, I promise. Now, the next one I'm going to share is something that I have a feeling people will disagree with, but I am quite strong on my opinion of this, so I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. If you already own ferrets, I do not think it's a good idea to bring your ferrets to meet the new ferret before you purchase it. I think people are gonna disagree with me on this because they want to make sure that the ferrets will get along and that they aren't gonna have any problems at home. But the way I look at it is that anytime that someone is getting a new ferret, it is recommended that they put this new ferret in a minimum of a 2-week quarantine. I'll be doing a video about quarantining after this one. And the whole point of this quarantine is to make sure that the new ferret isn't sick and it isn't gonna pass anything on to your other ferrets. So the way I see it, why would you introduce these ferrets to each other so quickly without having done that quarantine period? It just doesn't make sense to me, because then you're eliminating the whole point of the quarantine period and you're very likely going to pass something on to your ferrets that you already have. So I just really don't see the logic in doing that. Also, I have a pretty strong opinion that like 99.99% of ferrets are going to get along, provided you go through the introduction process properly. I'll be posting a video about proper introduction process too, don't worry. So I just don't think that it's necessary for you to risk getting your ferret or even the new ferrets sick when you haven't done the quarantine period just to see if they get along, which is something that they will very likely do provided you follow the right protocol. Again, people are gonna disagree with me on that one, but that is just my point of view on the situation. Now, the last piece of advice that I can give you is the biggest piece of advice that I can give on this topic of adopting animals from kijiji, and it is to be as honest as possible as you can with the people who you are purchasing from. If you're honest to them and they are decent people, they will be honest back to you. And when it comes to getting an animal that is rehomed, honesty is super, super, super important. So just be open with people about things. If you don't know a certain thing, or you need to like check a reference for a certain thing, just tell them. There's this fear that all the people out there on these rehoming websites are evil, scheming people who just want your money, and they're sitting there like, "Nyeh, nyeh, nyeh. Give me your cash, I will give you this ferret that's been living in a box for 7 months." That's not everyone. Sure, that's some people, but there are a lot of nice, decent people, and if you're a nice, decent person back to them, you're gonna have a much better time, and this process is gonna go a lot easier. Well, that's pretty much everything that I have to say about this subject for today. I hope that if you are someone who was wanting to adopt a ferret off of one of these websites and are maybe a little bit hesitant, maybe this video helped clear a few things up, made you a little bit more confident. But if you guys have any other questions or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments down below. You can even message me on Instagram. I would be extremely happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Like I said, I've been through this process twice now, and both times, well, the first time was a flying success. The second time we're in the process of it being a success. I guess I'll find out on Saturday if it's a success or not, but I think I'm doing pretty good so far. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this is going to be a video series, so please subscribe to my channel if you are curious to see more. I will have them all on a playlist, and I will be uploading them periodically throughout the next month or two. But don't worry, I do have a couple ideas for silly, stupid, crafty things that I'm going to be doing in between, because I really miss sitting on my living room floor just sewing something dumb for my ferrets. I gotta do that sometimes to cleanse my soul. Well, have a great rest of your day, everyone. I will see you hopefully when I have 2 new ferrets. I am very excited. Goodbye!